Ladies and gentlemen of the crypto space, we're live on a Monday, August 16th at 12:29 p.m. A little late to the stream today. Been very busy, unfortunately, but I have two things I want to talk about today. Pretty interesting stuff. I've come a long way in my understanding of this space. Obviously, it's really been a year and a half since some serious changes have occurred, especially even historically speaking, of the crypto space, which is still relatively new relative to the entire macro financial environment. About it's not even back to 2000. Bitcoin's inception 2010, 11, 12, 13. That was you had back then you had no idea what was going to play out, and even in the later cycles, 17 and 18, you still had no idea what was going to play out. But things started to unfold and become much clearer how the crypto space fits into the macro landscape. Most certainly 2020. March 2020, April, May, June became quite interesting. Looking back in hindsight, you could definitely see some foreshadows. But from where we are right now, the crypto space has a solidified place in the macroeconomic landscape in all regards. So there's a couple of things that I've learned, and in hindsight, I could share with you. I've overtraded. I could have had much more capital right now as compared to if I made if I, as compared to doing the things that I did. But also, it's always worth noting that if I didn't do the things I did, I wouldn't have the experience and knowledge that I have now, experimenting with countless protocols over the last year and a half. And there's no reason to regret that I would have more capital now. I'll show you guys what I mean. Let me jump into the stream, but I want to bring that into how I understand the future playing out. And really, I think the biggest pressure going on is the digital yuan and the global pressures for change. There's other pressures other than the digital yuan, but that's the behemoth in the room. And I don't think global powers, global sovereigns are reacting as they will once they potentially see the picture that I see. Uh, a lot of folks don't even know. I don't think anyone in Congress knows what the hell the digital yuan is, other than maybe intelligence agencies. I doubt the politicians comprehend the implications from a technology perspective. Let's dig in. Today's episode is sponsored by Change Angel, the non-custodial swap exchange for social goods. Stop depositing on exchanges, not your keys, not your crypto, non-custodial DeFi, or nothing at all. Bam! Let's pop it over to the main screen and see who's in the stream. Stops in the house, Bitcoin Bro, Break Glass, Alexander. First time, won't be the last. Killis is in the house. All right, so at one point, I remember late last year, I think I had like 600 Ethereum. And I'd have significantly more capital right about now. And obviously, we had a deflationary impulse in the crypto space. We go over to the Ethereum chart. Um, I'll zoom out to the weekly. So that's a significant deflationary impulse. So what have I learned? Who the heck holds through something like this and has that kind of time horizon? Now, as of right now, I probably would have had that time horizon, considering the way my knowledge and understanding of the macroeconomic landscape has evolved. I probably would have just held through this. But what was I doing? I was buying. I had a fair amount of stable coins. I was buying on the way down, and I thought that was the right play at the time. And I remember buying down here. I remember buying all the way down. And that's what I've done historically, and my ideology has evolved significantly to the point where less is more means more than anything, and I have more conviction in my current selections than I've ever had. They fit in exactly how I see the macroeconomic landscape playing out, and I don't need nor should I want to modify my current allocations. Definitely not significantly, maybe minor adjustments here and there, but they very much express the way that I see the big picture, and the big picture really is pushed around by China's digital yuan at this point that no one's talking about. They all see it as something that's not as powerful as it really is, and I'll explain. Um, So I didn't make as much gains as I could have, and that's okay. Um, I wish I had more Ethereum, and maybe I'll be able to get some nice wins off the NFT space. But I don't have any large buy low, sell high plays from a cryptocurrency perspective. So I don't have anything that's going to really significantly produce gains other than NFTs. So I have it's a moderate size NFT portfolio relative to my overall portfolio. It's probably 5%, give or take, was deployed into NFT space. And, significant risk there. But if you want the big gains in crypto, uh, just stuff that you would get on 1inch or Uniswap, that you have the same risk there. It either goes really, 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 really high or it goes really low. It's a big asymmetric bet. So if those gains come in, that's very nice. If they don't, I'm very satisfied with the what I've been able to achieve and allocate and feel comfortable with conviction that I have right now, the positions that I have right now. Um, Wish I had more Ethereum. I don't have much Bitcoin. Bitcoin I see as a value storage vehicle that's going to appreciate significantly over the coming years. But Ethereum, as Raul has talked about and countless talk about, is basically a network with predominant um, network effect. There's going to be many, but this is so far in front. Where's ultrasound money? It's so far in front, guys. What is in front stays in front. That's the bottom line. That's how network effect works. There's nothing that's going to disrupt it. The amount of burn that's going on, this is just extraordinary to see. This is such a disinflationary pressure, at times full on deflationary. And I'm curious how V2 will play out. Proof of stake. I just The monetary policy of Ethereum now hits something that I appreciate very significantly from a money perspective. And I just think Ethereum is an extremely significant um, technological achievement, especially the consumption and utilization and development that's ongoing with it. And I just don't subscribe to the Bitcoin maximalist methodology and ideology. Um, I just what I see is so many people building and coding and working, and work is productive, and that's valuable. This is an industries, countless industries. This is the internet. This is 1999 all over again, and it's big deal Ethereum, big part Ethereum, or majority part Ethereum. Um, and there'll be countless protocols that are alongside of it. And we know what they are. Polygon's a big deal. It's not to be marginalized in any regard. Um, I think Cardano will come up to speed in the coming years, but it has a significant ground to gain, and speculatively it may. And I avoid speculation, so that really emphasizes my opinion on the matter. And there's plenty of protocols that are significantly more deployed and experienced with regard to a production environment. Um, Phantom is really cool. Avalanche and Blocknet still are on my mind. Syscoin, I think, in the coming years will pop up. The what I reminded me of a lot of the things that I have in my secondary portfolio is the NFT space. You don't buy the things that are ripping, and it takes years for some things, ideologies and narratives to play out. So I have a renewed appreciation for some of my assets that are in my multi-year bag, so to speak. Syscoin, Firo, Blocknet. I have other stuff. Slips my mind at the moment what they are, but those are the long-term plays that I think have legs over the next 5 to 10 years. Um, so overall, I'm not going to get into technicals right now, but my renewed faith is meaningful. It's part of the evolution of my macro understanding, and my macro understanding at this point sees more potential than ever with the crypto space. Um, China is pushing so far, so fast ahead with the digital yuan. It's under the radar of sovereigns. As I said, maybe the intelligence agencies have an understanding of what they're doing. Here's the kicker. This is what I see. Clearly, the U.S. dollar has full-on uh, hegemony. It's totalitarian in many regards. It runs the show. The other sovereign fiats are marginalized in significance and importance. The dollar is a bully. Dollar rallies, it crushes other fiat, and that makes other folks angry. And anyone could understand that. So the yuan is not very powerful, especially considering all things considered, the dollar that being. But I think CBDCs change everything. They give extreme power, and it's literally like you have this old system, and then if once the digital yuan reaches critical mass, the old system is literally irrelevant. It's literally they're starting a new currency, and how that new currency plays out has they don't give a shit about what happens with the legacy system, because I mean seriously, CBDCs and what they're doing with the digital yuan, they could disseminate unlimited central bank digital currency anywhere in the world instantaneously, which means they already have they peg their yuan to the dollar, and then it's not free floating. So they could do the same thing with the digital version, except they could print unlimited amounts and disseminate instantaneously. One of the largest burdens with the legacy system is banking rails, and how the hell do you disseminate capital? But a digital yuan, that's all done. It's irrelevant. Everything's bypassed, and the way China operates, the, there's obviously a lot of subtleties involved in bypassing legacy banking. There's a lot of companies and people and employment involved. But I think we're all underestimating what the sovereigns may do, especially China with its totalitarian ideology. Uh, close a bank and just shut it down, and you have unlimited capital. Uh, and, and and what they might have in mind from a social perspective, just pay everyone unlimited capital, and 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 the whole point of capital is to encourage work and productivity. So if you have unlimited capital in digital form at your disposal, you could not just encourage productivity and work, you could enforce it by giving capital and having expiration on that capital. That person's going to spend it. So if you give a business capital and they have to spend it on employees, so on and so forth, they will. Otherwise, they lose it. And that's extraordinary. It's capital controls at its most extreme. And on the contrary, as well, with regard to inflation, they could prevent spending. So with digital currency and totalitarian ideology, I think legacy fiat is up against something that it is not just prepared, it's incapable of remaining competitive with. Um, they could literally just bypass the entire legacy financial system, and I don't see why that is not something that is talked about more from a government perspective. It's a little bit fearful. You could have that type of overtone to it because that gives them great power. But I ultimately believe in humanity, and I think they're not the worst interests aren't on their mind, and I think they do have humanitarian interests at the most fundamental level of what they're thinking. Um, but man, people in government are not talking about, at least publicly, about what they're doing and why they're doing it and the implications of it. They could literally just disseminate money around the world, and that buy our products, buy Chinese-made products, and now all of a sudden manufacturing is through the roof, and outside global investments in the country are through the roof, and there you go, GDP's through the roof. And if inflation gets hot, all right, capital controls and tell people they could spend less, or it's a whole different world of money. Um, they just disseminate capital. So your citizens, why poverty? Just disseminate capital, and you want that. So now there goes homelessness, and incentive. Just you can incentivize work, just at the not even the flip of a switch. It's just programmed in. It changes everything. I don't think the world is prepared, and I am struggling to really conceptualize the full extent of what's going to play out. Now, bear in mind what I say, what's going to play out. These time horizons take a long time to execute on. The world is slow as shit, and it's really annoying, and that's really why it's hard to wrap your head around the changes that are going to unfold. It takes months and years for things to play out. But we get foreshadows, and I've seen a couple of foreshadows over the years. And the biggest foreshadow I saw that played out, and it's going to play out as expected. It's just time at this point. Um, is electrification. I saw that probably in 2000. Saw it start to get very interesting in 15, 16, 17. And in 17, lithium miners just exploded. And then what was 18, 19, Tesla started to come online, and the Tesla narrative. Tesla's just a foreshadow. That's what's so fascinating about foreshadows. People see Tesla and they think that's the play. It's not. Uh, you have to put Tesla into the context of a macroeconomic perspective, or a just a global macro perspective, to really understand what's playing out. Electrification is huge, and that's just one of the biggest foreshadows that I saw a couple of years back. And what we're seeing in the crypto space is another foreshadow. Um, Everything we've seen thus far is a foreshadow for the scale and scope of things to play out over the next 5 to 10 years. Massive, massive systemic societal change, all the way from the government to the individual behavioral level. I can't detail the extent of what will play out, but I get glimpses of it. The third is assuredly money in general. So I see what's playing out in crypto, not money. I see this as more technology, products and services, at least disintermediation of financial services, and applications, and just internet, Web 3.0. And they've aptly named the libraries to code JavaScript, Python, and what have you. Is even a Kotlin Web 3 lib. Um, they called it Web 3. And yeah, this is that big. Um, it just bypasses all infrastructure. It bypasses DNS. It bypasses centralized hosting. It bypasses centralization, and it's P2P participation. And there's a layer of anonymity to it. Anyone can participate anywhere. There's no capacity technologically to restrict access to it, um, unless you get to the ISP level. But there's ways to do that as well. There's plenty of satellite ISP providers, and you bypass the monopolization of local networks. The last mile, they call it. So if you go into a satellite, it doesn't matter who's providing internet connectivity in a particular region. You're going up to space. So that's a big one. There's one that I see far out. That's computational. Um, Computational foreshadow, and that's just driven by Moore's law, and that's probably next decade, 2030 to 2040, give or take. That's going to be fascinating. We're quite early for that one. So you can only pack so many transistors onto a silicon wafer. So inevitably, for them to have products actually sell, they have to sell something new. Anyway, let me talk some comments. Maybe I could wrap some of these ideas and pull them together into something that's better understandable. I threw a lot of ideas at you guys. It's been a serious couple of weeks, and what I'm finding is more conviction than ever in the positions that I have. I could talk briefly about my positions and why I feel the way I do, and how they fit into how I see the macro landscape playing out. If you guys want, but let me see what I missed. Sir Joe, same. Zach's in the house. Hunter, be humble, man. This is gold, my man. Vincent, the world is not prepared for sure. No, they have no idea. The general public has no idea what's going on, and even um, even folks at institutions, schools. I don't think folks are really ready. I think the amount that we're on the threshold, the amount of change that is on the threshold of reaching critical mass is extraordinary. Um, I just see this touching every system. And I see this touching every system because I interact with these protocols and then I know what they do. I know how they work. I know the code that goes into them. Look, literally just employment, programming. I'm a programmer. I want to program this instead of what I historically did, which is Android centric. Now, all of a sudden, you need a million programmers to know how to program this. It changes employment, it changes what we do for a living. That's massive. So, this is changing lives, it's changing normalcy, it's changing the direction uh, of, of, of everything. That's how big this is. Um, Martin, hey Noah, what's your current narrative on Matic and the Poly ecosystem? The same thing that I said months ago, the Indian narrative. Um, I think it takes years for the Indian narrative to play out, but there's no reason for what they created to not mobilize an entire country to build and develop. You got a country of programmers, and how do I know that? Because I work with them and countless corporations that I've worked with over the years. All the outsourcing is all to kids that are hungry for opportunity, and then they think working for these companies is their opportunity. When if you want, what happened with Polygon is you're going to unleash a platform where anyone could build anything, and that's what the boys who built Polygon have shown, that anyone could build anything and make something real that has legs, that's viable. For a country that has over 1 billion people, if 10,000 people build incredible projects out of a country of 1 billion, that seems like a small number. That's going to motivate even more. I think that's a hell of a story what they built. They just bought that ZK roll-up protocol for $250 million. Come on. When I say the Indian narrative, I don't mean the Matic asset from a speculative opportunity like buy Matic. The Indian narrative is going to make it worth a fortune. No, I mean some serious shit is going to change over the next 5 to 10 years. And the Indian narrative, Polygon, has motivated an entire country full of hungry kids that don't have the same opportunities we have around the world. And they're going to build some shit. That's what I mean. So a lot of what I talk about is macrocentric. It's not necessarily about an opportunity. Identifying the opportunity or capital gains opportunity in what I talk about from a macro perspective is another story. It's mutually exclusive. Matic is massive. Do I own any Matic? No, I don't. I think it's a very volatile asset. I think it's inflationary. It doesn't have any deflationary pressures, especially compared to Ethereum. Ethereum has a disinflationary pressure that's absolutely massive, and it's expected to become deflationary within the next 2-3 years. Ethereum 2.0, whether it's 1.5 and they let the L2s do the scaling, I think that would be in the best interest of Ethereum, and let Ethereum focus on what it does best, is securing the protocol, and let the L2s do the scaling. That was what something Vitalik wrote in one of his GitHub commentaries. And man, that's a heck of a narrative. So you got the big narratives. You got the Indian narrative, the China narrative, which we talked about, and the digital yuan, which is going to change everything. Should be lighting a fire under Congress. Like literally, like, what are we going to do? They should be saying. They should be saying that. What the hell are we going to do? We are so far behind, and these pathetic politicians are they're trying to get some tax revenue out of the crypto space. No, they should be lighting a fire in the US crypto space to try and catch up, to try and compete. That's what I think is going to play out. I think the US is going to be late to the table, which they already are. They're going to realize how serious it is from a currency perspective, what they're doing, and then they're going to throw everything they can at it. And some serious shit's going to go down domestically in the US with regard to capital allocation, government intervention, and they're going to say, wow, we may have a problem on our hands. I mean, what's the use of the dollar when a country could just disseminate value anywhere around the world, and there's an entire country backing that value? Here's $1 billion, England, buy things. If they need, if they want a GDP bump, if they want to get people working, money's all about work and an incentive to get people productive. How do you get people in your country productive and working and full employment? Give money. Give $1 billion to a country that may give $1 billion to some country in Africa that wants to buy products and services. Hey, and tell them and enforce with capital controls, because it's digital, that they have to spend it on Chinese products and services. Bam, there you go. Capital injection, and now 10 million people have jobs because 5 factories, 50, 100 factories are being built, and all those resources and minerals need to be mined for the materials for the factories to have and the shipping to export the products. They need 100,000 new ships. They send the money, and if prices start to unravel inside domestically in the country, then you capital controls restrict people from purchasing it until supply could catch up. And then supply catches up, and now you could release the capital. This changes everything. It's no longer airdrops and see what happens and let it play out. Like the Fed right now operates on, okay, let's see if it's transitory. Let's see what plays out. No, it becomes an equation. That's what I see as a programmer. It's no longer analog. That's a great way to describe what I see. It's no longer analog, it's digital. Analog Fed throws some money over the wall and interacts with the legacy banking rails, and then they have to wait to see a response. When it's digital, you know what the response is because it's programmed. Chris, hi Noah, can you elaborate on how M-stable rewards are distributed? How much is liquid? The rewards are mostly MTA. Yeah, 2/3 are locked for 6 months. 1/3 is released immediately. That's the way the linear vesting works. Um, I think M-stable is speculatively a quite interesting asset. They need to do work, and they need to work on their monetary policy. Um, it, I'm probably going to exit my M-stable position in the coming weeks, and I'm going to concentrate in Frax. Some transparency on what I'm doing. I've always said my eyes are on many places, and it takes a lot for me to make a choice, reallocate. But I don't mind if M Stable does very well between now, 6 months, a year, 2 years. They need to make some changes, I believe. Now, bear in mind, it's a ridiculous place to park stablecoins, um, particularly GUSD, as it's paired with MUSD, and Frax has a Frax MUSD pool on Polygon, which is a ridiculous consideration. Um, so M stable is something that catches my eye. I like risk minimization, and MUSD uh, spreads the risk around stables significantly. And when paired with GUSD, that's such a ridiculous stablecoin position, yielding 40 something percent at the moment. Isn't that crazy? 40 something percent on GUSD, which is dollar backed stables. Man, the U.S. government, they think they have control, and they will. But in the end, if they destroy a multi-billion-dollar cryptocurrency stablecoin and they hurt people, that they may want their control, but if they lose the faith of the people and they cause pain on the general public, we just saw the lobbying efforts that the crypto space unleashed on on uh, on Congress with the infrastructure bill. Could you imagine if they destroyed Tether and the ripple effects it would have? It would be very, I think, destruction of value in Tether would be price appreciative for a lot of assets because now people have to liquidate Tether and they're buying other things. So that's a price appreciative event, in my opinion. But it's a very useful asset and it's collateralized by junk debt. But that's something the legacy system created, and people have it and they want to use it instead of it just sitting there as junk, as shit. So they use it to collateralize stablecoins. Makes sense as a business. I like that business. They're turning a liquid, or it's probably liquid, but they're turning shit into something that's functional and useful. Great. All right, some questions. Zach, helium takes care of the last mile, right? Or at least that's the idea. I do not know of it, but I would expect many solutions to Web3 access without the need of a centralized ISP that actually has wires in the ground. But something I should look into what helium is. Interesting. Vincent, Congress is talking about the wrong topics. They're off base. They're totally off base. They're so small picture. They don't have a macro understanding of things. They are not prepared. They are not prepared. Because if I asked the questions and said the things that I have said to you guys, they would not have the answers. They would seriously be like, "What?" Maybe they'll be scared. Maybe they'll be like, "What are we gonna do?" No, I've never heard on a congressional testimony that China is on the threshold of being able to disseminate unlimited central bank currency to anywhere, to anyone around the world. They could juice their GDP to 10 bajillion. And then, oh, inflation's high, capital controls, restrict spending. It's a totalitarian government. You don't think they're going to do that? Of course they're going to do that. They're going to turn their CBDC into a program. It's going to be crafted and strategic. They got some serious brains over there. So you think they're going to be very crafty and strategic and not just, okay, we're going to adjust this parameter and see what happens. No, they're going to play it out. Meaning they're going to know if they adjust this parameter, yeah, this is what's going to happen because it's all algorithms. It's all going to be a controlled environment. Changes everything with regard to monetary policy. Careless. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of good people, but they're not big thinkers. They're thinking with the relative to their community or their people, which is critical as well. But if you don't understand the macro perspective, how the hell could you make the best decisions possible with the micro decisions? And that's the way I think about myself. I understand the macro, and that's how I make my micro decisions with regard to my capital allocation and my conviction. Don't worry about U.S. Congress. They will light fire in Europe, Middle East. It's already getting warm. Just pure history before monetary reset. Well, monetary reset, I don't want. That's a scary notion, bro. All I know is I want to be able to go outside and buy things and go on vacation. And a monetary reset, if the dollar is worth less and less, and where it collapses 50%, 100%, 75%, and you get the inflation that you've had in Argentina, or maybe if the dollar goes up in value significantly and all of a sudden prices around the United States cost significantly less, there's going to be some serious volatility. And that causes uncertainty and fear and anxiety. And that's when shit hits the fan. So you don't want a monetary reset. What you want is to opt out. I don't want anything to do with that shit, in my opinion. I don't want anything part of what they built. It's just lingering, and it's so toxic, and it's so perverted at this point, and they're just hanging on to it because they're not engineers. Politicians are not engineers and scientists, so they don't have any concept of radical systemic change. And so, it's like what we do in programming is we have app 1.0, and then we have app 2.0, and you're like, how the hell are we going to build that and then get from app 1.0 to 2.0? And then what do is you come up with the plans and you execute and you iterate. You got to make radical changes and figure out how to get from where you are to where you want to be. Anyway, um, Egbert, capitalism is what made a mess of the world. Well, bear in mind, capitalism is also what grew the world to what it is, but free capitalism, which is not what we have. We don't have capitalism necessarily, and not even in a pure form, but it's not really capitalism in the US anymore. Capitalism is if a company fails, it goes bankrupt, and that means money is destroyed. When a debt is repaid or not repaid and a default occurs, money that's monetary destruction. But since 2008, that's on the decline, and since 2020, everyone was bailed out. There was free $100,000, $250,000 checks thrown around like nothing to companies that would have failed. So capitalism was intervened with. It's not capitalism what happened over the last year and a half by far. Vincent, you're very welcome. Trying to put the big picture puzzle pieces together. What am I looking at? Maybe I could wrap it things up. Man, Ethereum. I like watching ultrasound money. Look at these burn blocks. That's a big deal. Um, this chart is misleading. Change the denominator, divide by M2. This is the S&P futures, but you could look at the SPX or the index, SPY. So this is misleading in my opinion. Always look at the contrarians, follow Jeff Snyder and Steven Van Meter to get the other side of the coin. Um, Brent Johnson, I think a lot of the, they're not bears. They're rational. I've heard a lot of change of tone lately. I've heard phrases like, "I didn't think it was going to last this long," or so, the bears showing, bullish counts. Um, it's going to last another 10 years, another 20 years. It's not capitalism anymore. It's a controlled environment. Well, this is a shitty controlled environment because it's the legacy banking rails. And that's what the capital controls on a digital currency allows. It changes everything. Then it's a controlled environment. And that's what the digital Yuan will allow for. So things are changing significantly. And what Raul has said is something I agree with. How we value things is changing. Because in a free market where things are allowed to collapse, and then that has understandable valuations where things are based on natural law and revenue, like revenue season. The S&P is like six stocks that's rallying it because they're tech. So that's how Raul talks about understanding a new way of valuing things, technology, and other assets will use technology because they want to experience that value growth or that productivity. And the ones that don't evolve and iterate and move forward are left behind. And that's how you get change in infrastructure, change in corporate process. I mean, listen, one of the biggest things that has changed since 2020 is work from home. If someone asked me that I said to me that I can't work from home the vast majority of my time, I'd probably quit because I'll find someone who'll let me work from home because I'm very productive working from home. and I don't need to go into an office to be productive. Now, on the contrary, I like to go into an office because it's nice to get out of the house every now and then. But then I want to go home and I'll work from home. All right, guys, I'll see you next week. Everything has changed. Everything has changed. Um, Egbert's only about production. Well, yes, and that's really one of the biggest goals of government is GDP, is production. And if they want production to go up, send digital yuan will send $1 billion to England. Please buy our products and services. If inflation gets hot, hey, people in the country or people overseas, all right, instead of spending $1 million a month, you could only spend 600,000 on these products and these services. And it is enforced digitally. So they could literally control inflation and uh, stoke consumption, stoke purchasing, and stoke the GDP. It's complete totalitarian capital controls. That's nothing like any government in history has ever experienced. It's only because it's digital. We're on the threshold in the next 10, 20 years, and we're going to start to see the initial impacts of this over probably 5, 10 years. You know, a lot of employers like not human resources, but like people that help you understand what you're doing with your career. They say to have like a 5-year plan and a 10-year plan. So I like to think of those time frames in a value allocation time horizon, and I like thinking of the future. Some serious shit's going to go down in 5, 10, 15, 20. Different things in 5, 10. Like 5, 10, you start to see the foreshadows of how things are going to play out. And then the 10, 20, serious change. I mean, the 10, 20, we'll start to see the computational revolution as well, where Moore's Law, and you can't build silicon chips anymore. And now maybe DNA computing, maybe quantum computing advances, maybe what was it, holographic computing with lasers and stuff. There's a lot of different tech. Very interesting how computation or processors, computer processors, will evolve. But over the 10 to 20-year time horizon, that's probably the time horizon where that starts to kick in. Be humble, man. I'm watching while practicing for my Series 7B. I hope one day I can understand and utilize the gems you're dropping on us. I'll let you know if I pass. I've been watching to help out studying. Oh, it's a pleasure and good luck. These exams, I don't have the patience for them, but I really I wish you the best. And Series 7, you'll be able to sell securities, and that's an art. And I know the vast majority just I don't know. Security is a complex topic because I sure as hell don't want to sell CBS to someone. Do I? I don't. I want to sell tech and engineering and science and shit that is future oriented. So I can't appreciate that industry that much, but I appreciate your interest and desire to achieve something. So go get them. I remember in college, I always said, once I'm done, I never have to do it again. So get the damn Series 7, and you never have to do it again. So do it and finish and move on. My man, you got this. Egbert, what's your take on metal backing digital currencies? I don't know. I don't know. I think it's mutually exclusive. Oh, you mean I see what you're saying. Like Pax Gold, Pax G, stuff like that. There's a Tether has a gold product as well. Um, I don't know. I like physical. If I'm going to own like gold and silver, I want physical because those freaking coins are awesome. And there's something that's awesome about tangible assets, and obviously there's stuff awesome about digitally tangible assets like NFTs. So this all fits into a big picture, and we'll only know in hindsight how physical metals in the digital world. It's a very different world where physical metals had power and weight and this enormous value opportunity. I think it's changing. That's my gut instinct. Let me wrap up the stream. 1:13 p.m. on a Monday, August 16th. I hit you guys with very big macro ideas. It wasn't the most organized trains of thought today. Probably could have done better. I like this topic though. The more I talk about it, the better I digest it and have a potential to understand it and attack it from a macro perspective. But as always, I thank you all for listening to me. You guys help me understand the things that are on my mind. As always, tell everyone to subscribe. After party on Discord, and it's Monday, so we got the start of a new week. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.